Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this first webinar of the RECinMED series. So my name is Igor. I'm from School Center Velenje, Slovenia, and I am very happy to see all of you having such strong interest in today's topic. So this webinar is a part of a broader effort under the RECinMED project, where we are working together across the Mediterranean to support the development of renewable energy communities, or RECs. So today is really just the beginning, the first step in a series of webinars, which are designed to build knowledge, share tools, and connect people working on energy transition. So this is the first of the 3 webinars, and we will continue with the next sessions on the 14th of April and at the end of May, where we will go deeper into practical aspects and real implementation of renewable energy communities. You can also find useful links that I just put into the chat, including project website, the forum, and some training materials. So feel free to explore them during or after the session. I will be posting or reposting the links again in a few minutes for the people who will be joining later. So, first of all, why does this topic matter? Let me start with a simple question. Why are renewable energy communities so important today? To answer that, across Europe and especially in the Mediterranean region, we are facing increasing energy costs, climate changing, and a strong need for more resilient local energy systems. The traditional centralized energy model is no longer enough. We can all agree on that one. The energy transition needs to involve all shareholders, the citizens, local authorities, then we have businesses, research institutions. And this is exactly where these RECs come in. They're not just about energy production. It is about participation, ownership, local empowerment. A clean and just energy transition can only happen if people are directly involved in producing and managing energy locally. So, what is RECinMED? RECinMED is a project. The RECinMED name stands for a multitude of inclusive renewable energy communities in the Mediterranean region. So, it's a project co-founded by the Interreg EUROMED program, which supports cooperation across Mediterranean countries to build a greener and more resilient future. So the main goal of our project is to test innovative solutions that can help create and operate renewable energy communities. But more importantly, this project is about cooperation. We are bringing together universities, local authorities, NGOs, development agencies, and other shareholders from 9 countries across the Mediterranean. And we work together to share knowledge, to test solutions, and to build capacity across regions. So, RECinMED is not just a theoretical project. It's a very practical project. We work on 3 main pillars. One is the transnational cooperation. We are building a cooperation forum where all partners and stakeholders can exchange experiences, discuss challenges, and learn from each other. This is the key because many regions face similar barriers. So then, the second, we have pilot actions. We will test solutions in real contexts, in urban areas, in rural territories, and on islands. Each of these has different challenges, and through testing, we will identify what really works. And the third, working groups and knowledge transfer. We created working groups that analyze existing tools and best practices, then adapt them to local contexts, and prepare them for replication, which is also very important. But the idea is not to reinvent the wheel, because we will build on what already works and scale it up. So what are we delivering? What are the concrete outputs of RECinMED? We are developing some training materials. You can see the link in the chat. So like the ones, I think they will be presented afterwards also by my colleagues. We are developing a transnational cooperation forum. We are developing tools and methodologies to support RECs, and pilot results and action plans. All of these are designed to help local authorities, communities, and stakeholders to actually implement renewable energy communities. So this webinar is a part of our capacity building activities. The goal is simple here, just to make RECs understandable, accessible, and actionable. So today we will cover the basics of RECs, some policy and regulatory framework, and practical tools you can use. In the coming months, so the next webinars, we will continue with more advanced topics, some real-life examples, and deeper discussions. Before we move to the next part of the agenda, let me just say that this is not just a project, it's a community effort. So we all invite you to stay engaged, to participate in discussions, and to contribute your experience. We gladly welcome anyone, because the success of RECs depends on collaboration. So thank you for your attention. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague Francesco for the next session about renewable energy communities, as we said, for dummies.
Thank you very much, Igor, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm sharing my screen so that I can start developing the presentation. Okay, just tell me when you can see everything in presentation mode.
Perfect.
It's working.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francesco Suzzi, and I am a project manager and sustainability manager representing ASSO, which is the Agency for Sustainable Development based in Italy, and that is a project partner of RECinMED. I will start this presentation with a brief and simple introduction about energy communities in order to be aligned with on a common knowledge basis, so that once we are all aligned and know the correct term and definitions, then we can go deeper with the following presentation and the following webinar. So let's start from the beginning. What are we talking about? RECinMED is about renewable energy communities. Let's stay on this term, in particular on without focusing on the term renewable, but let's focus on the more general definition of energy communities. So energy communities, as you can see in this slide, are legal entities that empower citizens, small businesses, and local authorities to produce, manage, share, and consume their own energy. So we start from this wide and general definition, and then in the following session we'll see where this definition comes from and how it was developed. So this kind of definition, and it's quite simple to understand and quite trivial, but we will see that the real application and the real consequences of putting into action this kind of initiative is not trivial at all, because it depends on a set of conditions that is quite um, critical and new in the current energy system all around the EU and general, and generally speaking. So once we agree on this common definition of energy community, we can say that we could split energy communities into big families. So we are dealing with in RECinMED, we are dealing with renewable energy communities, and then we have citizens energy communities. Let's start from the common features. So we can see that both of these entities require a legal entity, so they need to be legally established. They are based on open access, open and voluntary membership. So everyone respecting the conditions to be part of these entities can decide to jump in and jump out. It is controlled by community members, so it is a community and needs to have into its establishing documents, statutes, and so on, and governance mechanisms. They need to ensure the control of its community members and not external controls. Members must be natural persons, but also local authorities or small companies. And here we can see that this is a wide definition. Then at the national level and the local level, we can see what it means, what kind of specific legal forms are allowed or not. So let's think about public entities having specific roles also in, um, in companies at the local level, managing, for instance, environmental services and so on. But this is the general rule. And what do? They provide environmental, economic, or social community benefits, mainly, and no, they don't focus on the financial return. So they do not focus on providing profit to the shareholders. Okay? And finally, they generate, consume, and share energy. Okay, as you can see here, I haven't mentioned renewable sources here. Okay, let's focus now on renewable energy communities that respect these features, but in addition, they are focused and they are based only on renewable energy. Okay, so this is the main feature that and distinctive one. After that, we can say that here members can also be medium-sized companies. So we can see here this slight um, distinction. They can be controlled by people close to the renewable energy projects. Okay, and legal entities shall own some of the energy generation assets, own or control. Regarding citizen energy communities, what are we talking about here? These are energy communities that focus on electricity production, sharing, and consumption. Okay, so here we talk about electricity. Um, there is a wider range of members that do not have effective control. They do not have geographical limitation on the location of members, and they can refer to specific market activities, so energy efficiency services, for instance. So this is a first description of two different forms of energy communities. Now In RECinMED, we are working on one of these two families that are renewable energy communities. What are the expected benefits of renewable energy communities? Well, the expected benefits are quite clear and simple to describe. First of all, we are talking about a way and method to realize and implement the energy transition needed for the overall fight against climate change and fossil fuels. Okay, so it is a tool to implement and realize energy transition. Energy transition means also to contribute to, if we deal with the European level, to contribute to the European renewable energy targets, to decentralize the electricity market, in particular electricity production, rather than relying on central production sites and huge networks. Here, the idea is to decentralize the production and keep the consumption in the local communities. And also to allow these communities to attract private investments, in particular in the renewable energy infrastructures. Regarding the social impact, energy communities were born with the idea of mixing the fight the fight against climate change and the contribution to environmental aspects with social benefits. So an important role and the responsibility that every energy community, renewable energy community, has is also to fight and reduce energy poverty and support vulnerable households. So this is a tool to face different challenges, environmental and social, in one way. And at the same time, it is a way also to disseminate and to produce common knowledge about energy markets and the relevance of energy production, consumption, and sharing in our daily life. So the idea is not leaving this remarkable sector into a few people's hands and forgetting about it, but to work together to build a reliable system and a decentralized one, and one where people can understand and have a role in its management. And finally, as we, as European Union and as local communities need to realize energy transition, that means to install and work on energy efficiency and install renewable energy production sites. Well, these tool energy communities are a way to increase the acceptance of these kind of projects, because they allow to redistribute the benefits, also economic benefits, towards the local communities. So this is a way to increase this acceptance of projects. Well, this is true, generally speaking. So this is true wherever we are. Of course, RECinMED is a project co-funded by Interreg EUROMED program, and so we have a specific perspective that is the Euro-Mediterranean one. So what do we have in our own regions and countries? We have strong potential we have a high potential, especially for solar and wind energy. And we have just to take a look at our maps, at our geographical maps, because we can see the geographical placement of our countries, and we can see that we have high potential for this kind of renewable sources. We have a network of islands, but also remote and rural areas that can be the perfect place, the perfect venue for this kind of projects and initiatives, in particular because this kind of tools and initiative can be a solution also to increase their ability and the effectiveness to build secure energy systems in these kind of areas without having to fund huge investments, but with smart ones. And they can relate to local needs and local identities. So energy communities are by design community-based projects, and this is important to remind. And at the same time, we can see that the Mediterranean regions face huge challenges. In particular, we can see that our vulnerability to climate change here is in the wrong place, because it is a huge challenges, of course, and energy poverty. It is, I mean, under our eyes every day, especially in these days, how we are dependent on fossil fuels and rising prices of fossil fuels. Um, we have seasonal energy demand, and this is related to the characteristics of our geographical region. And also we have a fragmented governance frameworks. We have a fragmented governance framework despite the efforts and um, the coordination at the European level. And when I quote the European level, I closing my presentation, my first presentation of today, and I leave the floor to Stefan to go deeper with the European framework, the European level, and talk us about the legislative framework and governance mechanism.
Okay, thank you, Francesco. I will share my screen also. So I will close yours and I will open this one. Okay. Is it working? Okay, simply perfect.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Stefan Poufari. I am from Energy 2050. So we are also part of the RECinMED project, and more than happy about this project. And so I will give some, let's say, comments, insight about the question of the policy frameworks and constraints, barriers, and enablers, which are quite challenging, despite the topic is more than relevant, as already explained by Francesco. So first, maybe I will not go too much in detail, but Energy 2050 is doing these activities worldwide in 70 countries and doing quite a number of projects on the renewable energy communities, as well as on Horizon Europe and other poles. So by the way, and just maybe to complement what Francesco already said, that in many of our projects, we have also renewable energy community, dealing with also thermal and renewable energy. So by the way, all the technologies links with renewable energy technologies can be part of the renewable energy communities. So it's the diversity of technology is quite wide, by the way. And so here, because of question of times, I will just go deeper and first introduce the EU level to say that it's clear that EU framework is the leading one on many points, but especially about renewable communities as well. So it's clear we have a commitment, we have target, we have willingness, we have a lot of detailed process, we have a lot of frameworks to endorse also renewable energy communities through the local plans, the SECAP and some others. So let's say at this level, we have a clear visions and also a clear willingness to change the patterns. So this is clear. But we have the question of implementations, which remains quite challenging in many contexts. We have national frameworks. This is also in many situations, the situation for EU frameworks to be implemented at national level. And we have also the question of economics, viability, which is not all the times answered. So I will go to all these points, going from the EU levels to the enablers and also to the barriers. So now I will say the main driver of this presentation is to remind that now we don't need any more, let's say, very high level policy design because we have it, but we need policy for implementation. This is a challenging one. So sorry for that. So going back to, let's say, the global picture, I will say first, we have a clear long track foundation at EU level, which is also associated for those who know EU systems since quite decades. It is all the times with white master plan on the technology, on the policy frameworks, on the climate agenda, on the carbon agenda, on the citizen, and also the decentralization process. We have a long track record. But let's say the inceptions of renewable energy communities basically came in 2019 in the clean energy for all European package, introducing all the type of energy communities, renewable and as well citizen energy communities. We have also a lot of directive. I will say mainly the ones for electricity, but not the only ones. And we have, as already explained by Francesco, the core principle, the legal entity based on voluntary, open, and also democratic controls. We have a lot of different, let's say, scenarios, but it's working quite well and very well precisely described. We have also the primary objective. This is clear. And I will add also the point that it is very interesting also because we are not only focusing on producing, but also about sharing and also about controlling the demand, because we have many renewable energy communities which also store. And so like that, we can compensate the variability of some resource. So it's also interesting. We have even charging, we have even electric vehicles in many energy communities now. So everything is quite comprehensive, working well. And we want also to focus in this, let's say, frameworks on the prosumer component, which is challenging, which is very important. Prosumer, here we speak about energy, but prosumer could also be on all the resource, let's say, value chain. But as we focus on energy today, we have to say that it's to generate, consume, store, and sell energy, to share between the communities, and also to deal with flexibilities. So demand response storage. And so the policy objective has been already said by Francesco. I will not recall it, but it is very clear as a vision. I will not go to the definition. It's already very clear. But going now to the implementation, this is the most challenging part, because at the end, I will say national legislations make the rules. What does it mean? It means that, and you will see here, it's just a tracker. We have many things to assess and to evaluate the policy. This one is very easy to access, but we have many, let's say, assessments which have been done since all the, let's say, I would say since decades now, almost. And so the transposition, let's say, is the most, let's say, important component. And here, if we look to the different countries, just in these assessments, we saw that some are very front runners. And even in that case, they face a lot of barriers, because even if the framework is there, the implementation sometimes is not really efficient. So we face, I would say, a common challenging full package of constraints. So, and we see that some of them are very far beyond, and some of them are very, let's say, proactive, even if some of them are not really implemented concretely, and let's say opening the market enough to attract all the typology of stakeholders we should be involved in. So it just to demonstrate that at the end, besides the legislation frameworks, the implementation side is the main constraint here. So I will not go to this one. It's just to remember that we have a lot of barriers and enablers. The first one are socio-economic conditions. This is the first one. I will not go too much in detail, but we will go some example later. The second one is institutional settings. And I will say this is probably the most important one in my perspective. Why? Because this is like, the master chief of the orchestra. So if they put in place the good, let's say, frameworks, everybody will do the game. If we put some constraints at the end, stakeholder will not move and will not implement. We have also technical constraints. These ones are really, let's say, challenging, but I will say we have such a huge, crazy set of innovations that at the end, I will say, as soon as you have the legal frameworks to, let's say, open really the markets, the technicals ones would do the game. I will just give you one example on this one to close these items. For example, we have also a Horizon Europe project, which is challenging. I know we have transboundary renewable energy community. It means energy community will exchange saving production between communities not connected and also in different places in the country and also between two countries. So you can imagine the complexity of blockchain and everything, the flexibility, but it's crazy because it's opened a new horizon of activities. And also we have also enablers and barriers, both from the stakeholders. And here also it's challenging, but I would say the willingness to jump in the discussion and jump in the market is really there as soon as the market opens the door. So going back to the, let's say, 3 key tension points I would want to really underline here is the first one, the policy ambition versus the implementation reality. And here it's challenging. Second point is a centralized system versus local empowerment. This is also very true. And even if everybody here is convinced about the importance of decentralized approach and territorializations of energy demand and energy production, thanks to the poor situation we have now internationally on climate, energy, fossil fuel, and everything, many guys want to recall for very centralized systems. So which is also absolutely contradictory to the approach to be decentralized and to have a local empowerment. So this is also challenging, and we need to explain, to demonstrate how we can, let's say, contribute to the change, and it's a really benefits for the society as a whole. And after, we have also a social vision versus an economic viability. On this one, I think we can have a lot of options. And again, I will focus on the legal frameworks, because if you put in place a lot of, let's say, tools, opportunities to mix a kind of blended finance, blended, let's say, situations, to take the additionality of renewable energy communities, at the end, you will have a benefit, both social and economic. But okay, in the literature, they're usually opposite, these two ones. But frankly, for us, we can find a lot of solutions there. Some barriers also are the complex regulatory frameworks. And even in the, let's say, countries, we have a very clear frameworks from implementations. The barriers are so, let's say, crazy that at the end, it stops the markets. You need to have very, let's say, one entry door, very easy access, very, let's say, easy process to deliver, to design, and to run, to make things simple enough to attract both investors with visibility on the payback, let's say, because we need a payback, but also for the citizens and the local governments to jump in. We have administrative burden. We have limited access to finance. This point is sometimes critical. And we have also grid and technical constraint. I already put some items on this one. So enablers, we have supportive policy public, which are really clear. We have also access to funding mechanisms. And now we have such a huge, crazy mix of vehicles as financials, so to can support the renewable energy communities. So frankly, we can find a way to finance almost each type of, let's say, communities everywhere. And it's very good, we have a strong local governance, and we have the citizen engagement. So now the key challenge and insight. So going from policy to reality, so we need a paradigm shift, but it's not enough. So we have first to focus and to demonstrate the economic viability of this kind of process. And here we need to have a robust business models, which is essential. We have a financial sustainability, which has to be, let's say, demonstrate to attract private investors and even to attract citizens, because citizens don't want to lose money, they want to be benefited. And so this is clear, but in most of the case, renewable energy communities create additionality and create finance and revenue. And so I will say maybe the most on the legal frameworks and also the implementation side is the lack of clear economic strategy. Because people don't understand, don't know, local governments are not familiar, citizens are not familiar, so they don't take advantage. And this is why RECinMED project and some other project like that try to demonstrate, and I would say to put the emphasis on the evidence, how we can demonstrate we create clear economic benefits. So thanks to a clear economic strategy. So we need also to have regulations clearly associated to business models. And again, it is part of the narrative from the local, but also from the national governments, because we need to make a clear alignment between the regulatory frameworks and local business models. And so after and at the end, we need also to have and to overpass operational challenges. I will say administrative complexity, access to finance, cash flow management, and market integration barriers. I have 3 minutes left. So my conclusions will say we have 3 ways to go beyond these constraints. And first, we are not speaking only about renewables. We are not speaking only about social and environmental projects. We are speaking about economic systems which have to be endorsed and included in regulatory frameworks. So the first one is to say better alignment between policy at national level, EU level, with local realities. We have a lot of tools to do that. You know, we have the national strategy for carbon, for climate, for adaptation, for energy, for everything. But we have the same, let's say, master plan at local level. And they have to be consistent to make some, let's say, bridge between both of them. So like that, we can have a kind of readability between them. We have also to adapt to the national context. This is really clear. And we have also to learn from existing projects. And frankly, if we look to the EU set of existing project, knowledge, vehicle, platform, we have, I will say, thousands of projects which already exist, which is critical. So we have a master mass to can explain and demonstrate and to help stakeholders to go beyond. And we have also collaborative platforms to add. So I really invite all of us, all of them, all of the stakeholders to jump in. And I will say we need to bridge the gap between policy ambition and economic reality. And last point, many energy communities struggle not because of the lack of vision, but because of the lack of viable economic models. I will close here because like that, I will be in the 15 minutes allowed. And so for sure, if we have questions at the end, it will be my pleasure to answer. Thank you. And I think, Francisco, it's your turn back, or Igor? Or
Well, I guess Igor can retake the floor and open the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, both of you. So we would like to open question and answer the last 15 minutes that we have left in this webinar. If there are any questions from the public, we would be glad to, let's say, answer them or try to answer them. Otherwise, if not, I don't see any hands. Francesco?
Yeah, while people is thinking about questions, I would like to um, to integrate or to start a conversation based on what Stefan just said, because um, as most of you will know, it was recently published a report from the European Court of Auditors specific on the trying to assess the results of energy community development at the EU level. And I guess that in that report, we can see several of the challenges and barriers Stefan mentioned before. Especially, and also I would like to recall a little bit of our experience in the project, because we are piloting some activities in our case with ASSO for the urban working group. Mm, Stefan said that the economic viability is the real one of the real challenges. I would like to focus also to the administrative one. So, because in my opinion, if we say that energy communities have those kind of features, especially the the community-based approach, the non-profit requirements, and so on. There is, and I can see it in many cases, a tension between, okay, it is an economic actor, but with this kind of peculiar features, and so it is quite it can be quite complex to attract people and to create the right incentives and also business models, to make it to make them survive and flourish. For instance, in our cases, we can see that there are several examples of um, energy communities that are animated and led by voluntary work, and there is a lot of people that strongly believe in this kind of tool and approach, but then it is difficult to make it to create the right condition to survive the economy on the market, and so this is a quite a tension, and I guess that it is something that Federico or someone said also in a recent post on our forum in LinkedIn. So this tension between a market approach and a more community-based one. So this is my reflection.
Yes, if I can jump, I think this point is very interesting to be discussed, because, by the way, I think the question of, let's say, non-profit, I will say, I'm not so sure this is, let's say, the main objective of the renewable energy communities in the law, and as it runs, it didn't say anywhere that it has to be made by volunteers and or by people which are going to lose money. Because, for example, I will give beyond RECinMED, we have a very large energy community dealing with even hydrogen production, hydrogen storage, hydroelectricity for vehicle storage, and also with thermal plant, about biomass, and also biogas, and also, so just to say, we can have large energy community, and you can even have private grid, because you don't need necessarily to be on the national grid. So I would say all these stakeholders, they run a business at the end, and even the citizens is not losing money. So it will take benefit somewhere, because about the flexibility, about the price, and even the climate concern, but whatever. Everybody has to take fees and to take benefit of the process. So, and I would say this is also the legal framework somewhere. We can open the market enough to create these flexibilities. And so as soon as you open that, you can have stakeholders, they will be paid even to run the energy community. When it's very small ones with only, I will say a small area with only end user consumers. But as soon as you go with private buildings, as soon as you go with public buildings, with large community, and even with industry, I'm speaking about the producer and or the consumer, you need to have, let's say, professional stakeholders. So if they run a business, they will take benefits. So when we say non-profit, is saying they have to focus on the additional co-benefits while running the energy communities. And the wording is really important because when we develop and when we work with large energy communities, the guys are doing the job, and with transnational, the one who will run the blockchain system will take some fees. It's obvious. It's clear if you make with my neighbors to have a small ones, mixing some panels and some small components at a very small scale level, we can have a voluntary base if the law allows us. And again, it depends on the law. Are we going to self-consume? Are we going to be in position to sell the extra, let's say, production? Are we going to manage somewhere the grid as a reservoir, when we are going to feed and to... So all the technical parts somewhere are connected to the legal frameworks if they are open. When I speak about the legal framework, it is not the upper level. It is a technical, let's say, traduction of the frameworks at the local level. So I would say people have really to understand that the scheme, for me, why it's so important, it is because it is the answer to so many challenges the EU is facing and countries are facing and territories are facing. We need to produce decentralized energy for a lot of security reasons and also for local empowerment. That's clear. So Renewable Energy Community, I will say, is an entry port to reconsider how we are going to produce and consume locally based at the citizen level, but also at the company level. And when we have that in mind, we have so many different schemes, which are also parts. If you look to the GRC, let's say, publication and all the design of energy technology, we have thousands of small, let's say, differences, but all of them make the same challenge viable. So this is why I want to be really positive. We know the barriers, but when we discuss with stakeholders, we try to feed them with a correct answer for their situation. And again, it will depend at the end, either we have a local frameworks and or the national frameworks to support that or not. If not, we are going to face a lot of constraints and it will not work. And if we support, thanks to this kind of projects, the change, whatever it could be the local one, like it is the case for the Granada cities in our project, for example, they can do many, many things because they are the ones to deliver the permits. They are the ones to even put some, they can put some added value to the system, about the economic system, for social housing, for many things. So at the end, we have master stakeholders they can do, but we need the framework somewhere to support the implementation.
I agree on everything, and yeah, that's the challenge to make it understand that there can be a market and working opportunities inside this kind of entities, definitely. And I just shared in the chat the link to the report because, in my opinion, it's quite interesting, and there are also the recommendations and are quite clear and aligned with what we just discussed. Yes.
Perfect. But maybe just to reopen, if someone wants to jump, I don't know if Federico and some other want to jump, but I just want to really say that we have a clear, let's say, understanding worldwide when, as soon as you have a kind of triptych approach, legal frameworks, technical frameworks, even if you have some barriers, it is clear that now to feed a grid with flexibility, let's say, issue is more easy than 20 years ago. That's clear. We know to manage, we know how to anticipate the demand, we know how to also, manage the demands with a lot of, we know, for example of renewable energy communities, one is very, let's say, strict about the control of the demand, because this community wants to be really self-reliant. So at the end, all the stakeholders self-agree at the end to have a kind of controlled demand approach, to be sure that they will be fed only by what they produce. So we can imagine anything, but as soon as you have the triptych, I would say the willingness of the consumer, the legal frameworks, and the technical operationality, I would say the market will jump in, because all the stakeholders want to jump in. It is a huge market, and we are really so sorry to consider so many countries are lag behind, because the challenge is here. They all have, let's say, local energy plan, local climate plan, but they didn't consider enough how they can produce themselves and consume themselves energy to be self-sufficient at a very economic benefit perspective. This is crazy, but this is why we need this kind of projects at the end, to support the, the sharing of knowledge and to invite stakeholders to jump in, because it makes sense.
Hi everyone, I want to jump in just saying to share this info about Conto Termico 3.0 is like a program in Italy that allow you to take incentives in energy efficiency and so on. And inside this program for incentives is a new kind of unique policy, we could say, for renewable energy communities, because in the program, the RECs can, we could say, allowed to be part of the flexibility services and auxiliary services. So it means that it's not like a market-based role for the REC, but is a big enabling role, we could say, to be part of the flexibility and balancing the grid service. So this means that I don't know. I think Europe is seeing the prosumer and the many renewable energy communities as a leader suppliers of energy for the grid, and so since we can feed the grid, also we can guarantee some sort of flexibility. So now when all the renewable energy communities in Italy must be following this rule, so everyone in their own statutes of the community need to specify that there will be open for the flexibility market one day. So it means that something is moving on in Italy for flexibility and auxiliary services. So it means, I think the renewable energy communities movement, we could say, in Italy is getting started, probably, because it's a nice opportunity then to aggregate all the communities and try to sell this capacity to the grid. And I think it's really, really important. For now, it's nothing money-based, no remunerative flexibility, but it's just a way to enable communities to start to approach to this service that can be in future probably money based and remunerative in some way. They give you back some money. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting the evolution of REC in Europe, and could be potentially a new model that is really going on in USA, also in some countries in Europe, the virtual power plant that is like a really interesting combination of these distributed energy resources in order that you can balance the grid and then provide like energy when you really need to cover some peaks. I don't know, it's like a big model that in US is getting really powerful, also for the AI energy demand and so on. So it's something that I think in Italy, little by little, I think they understood in some way. I hope this kind of policy will be shared in Europe in order that all the RECs in Europe can be in future available for flexibility and so on. So yeah, just to share this little insight.
very good example.
Thank you very much. And so we have come to the end of this first webinar. Thank you very much, Francesco and Stefan, for your valuable insight. Thank you all for being with us today. We hope that this was a useful starting point and that it inspired you to further explore the potential of renewable energy communities. Please stay connected through our forum materials. We have also social media webpage, and we look forward to continuing this journey together in the next sessions. So thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.